What's up, gamers? What's up, grifters and grafters? Today we're gonna watch John Fettywap Man talk about why he left the left. So sad to see this ogre go.
And Democratic Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania. Please give them a warm welcome. Thank you both so much for being here.
Appreciate you having us.
We appreciate you so much. Thank you so much. Please.
There's John Fettywap Man with Katie Britt, the lady who had that insane video after like Trump's State of the Union.
AI is
with
changing
her
what it takes to move forward in tech. And staying relevant isn't about chasing
set.
trends.
Good evening, America. My name is Katie Britt.
Definitely looks like this kitchen is well lived in, clean counters, everything. A bowl of fruit. This is how a normal person leaves their kitchen. I don't know. Anyway. This video was insane. Just like, Psycho Selena Kyle. Or Selena Meyer, I mean. From Veep kind of thing. Anyway.
Please have a seat, both of you. We are thrilled that you could both be here for this Common Ground event. Is that good?
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
Oh, it's great to be here.
And we're going to get to some...
So much common ground. A Republican next to a red Republican next to talks to blue Republican. I don't even know.
Policy and politics in a second, but I want to start off by talking about something personal, which is the relationship between the two of you, which is genuine. The two of you met Senator Fetterman during freshman orientation. Tell me about that and why the two of you formed a fast friendship.
I mean, I was struck first that her husband is actually bigger than I am. And I'm like, is that a bodyguard?
As senators, I thought they were talking about, like, they met in college. Like, oh my. The ogre's the ladies' man.
What's the story behind this? Wes, and it turned out that he lived the dream, my dream. I mean, he played for Alabama, which would have been the equivalent of...
So does he have to have his phone out so he can read from a script? I guess he can at least talk naturally about this stuff.
And then played in the pros, So I played football too, but not very well. And so that's how that conversation started. And then it really kind of picked up right there and never slowed down, really.
Senator Britt, how has the relationship evolved? Why is it still going strong? Again, it's a personal relationship, but it's a professional one as well. You're trying to get things done on Capitol Hill.
Absolutely. And I think that we use the trust and the respect that we have for each other in our friendship to be able to talk about hard things and talk about pathways forward. But our friendship, both anchored there at freshman orientation and with both of our spouses getting to know each other as well, we've taken the time to not just understand our politics or position on something, but to really get to know each other as people. And I think that that's missing so much right now. And I think when you...
Yeah, they're both fake as fuck. We really connected over lying to our constituents. Yeah, it was great.
do that when you ask about each other's kids and you know what's going on. And we've also commiserated over some of our votes and having to miss our children's activities and like, how do we do this whole thing? And also our frustration with some of the gridlock and the lack of communication and conversation. And so our conversations we have utilized to kind of try to spur something different in the Senate.
One of the...
Something different. Oh. Wow. You know, something different, like doing the exact same thing. that senators have been doing for the last 30 years. Bipartisanly serving their corporate masters and donors.
Things that struck me when I was researching your relationship and your shared policy proposals, Senator Britt, is that you actually visited Senator Fetterman when he was in the hospital. He was struggling with mental health issues, which you've been quite vocal about. Why was that important to you, to take that extra step to actually visit Senator Fetterman?
Well, look, let me tell you something. John has more courage, and the strength that he showed in that moment is something that I hope everyone in America looks to and learns from. And for him to trust me enough to be in that space with him, I will always want to be worthy of that trust. And I know that when we look at what's happening across our country, that there are so many people that are reticent to say, hey, I need some help. And John showed that that is the pathway forward and that treatment works. And I'm just grateful.
Treatment works. You got hit with the ray that makes you stupid. Ugh. You got hit with the IDF stroke gun, bruh. That's what the treatment was.
Grateful for his example and for his friendship.
Senator Fetterman, what did it mean to you that Senator Britt came to visit you?
Oh, I mean, of course, it made the world, and it just to remind. I mean, I would just remind anybody, you know, for my advice is, it's like makes it virtually impossible to be cruel or unkind to someone if you at least have a relationship or at least know that person. You know.
No, it doesn't.
I think it's a good rule that you know.
Maybe for fake people who only care about relationship built on like some kind of transactional, oh, you're nice to me, so I'll be nice to you type of connection. Yeah.
Don't say anything on social media about someone that you wouldn't say to someone in person. And social media especially has made that kinds of cruelty or those kinds of comments just a throwaway and easy because it's not really connected. It's almost like a video game. And that's part of the coarsening. And now having relationships, now it's often punished where it's like, we're that's the enemy because we're on different parties. And that's.
No, it's the enemy because they're corrupt politicians like you. Anyway.
It's absurd because that's the way, no matter who's in the majority or in the minority, working together, it's the only way it actually works. And we can't forget that because it gets more and more difficult and things become more polarized.
Well, speaking of working together, I do want to, and you raise the issue of social media, so you take me to my next topic perfectly, which is an area where you have joined forces, youth mental health and social media. You co-authored bipartisan bills, the Stop the Scroll Act and the Kids Off Social Media Act. Senator Britt, tell me about these bills. Why are they important? Why are you teaming up on them?
These bills are basically just the purpose of these bills is to increase the online surveillance apparatus. That's basically it. They're not actually protecting kids. The research that shows like the social media problem being like significant in any way is more so just like another type of satanic panic that people have had that we've had over video games, over movies, and even over books if you go back far enough.
On them.
Yeah, I think if you look at these, John and I approach this along with a number of our colleagues, not as Democrats or Republicans, but as concerned parents. I mean, we see what's happening across our country when it comes to mental health, and we know the impact it's having on our youth. And the more that we learn, the more we feel obligated to make sure that we're protecting the next generation. If you look at the stats themselves, 1 in 3 high school young women last year said she actually considered death by suicide. And then 25% of high school young women in 2023 said they made a plan to take their own life, and then 12% actually attempted death by suicide. When you add in young men, that number is 9%. We know that the rate of depression amongst young people more than doubled during 2011 and 2019, where there was also a coinciding of a rise in social media and using among young people. So John and I thought, what are some simple things that we can do to help warn people, warn parents about those negative effects? And so the Stop the Scroll Act, which John got marked up in the Commerce Committee, I think just last week, so we were really excited about that. That's a big step and pathway forward. We'll do a pop-up screen on anyone, young people's phones, just to say that there are challenging mental health effects. And Chris. And one thing that we did is we know that the Surgeon General and others will actually figure out what that says, but we wanted to make sure that there was a link to help, so that if someone found themselves in an unthinkable situation, that they would be able to click there and hopefully receive the kind of help that would prevent them from doing damage or harm to themselves. And then the Kids Off Social Media Act that we have together, along with Ted Cruz, and you've got Chris Murphy and myself and others. I mean, so a very wide spectrum of individuals, and John as well. It says you can't be on social media before 13, and then it says that we won't be able to use algorithms against our children. Brian Schatz is a member of this coalition as well. And then it says, you know, Eyes on the Board, which is one of John and Ted Cruz's pieces of legislation, that just says if you're at school, you should be at school, and those apps should be disabled. So those, along with a number of others, we have CASA that's been led by Senator Blackburn.
The reason why this is happening now, I think, is mostly because of what people saw, or how people saw TikTok giving Gen Z or younger folks a more critical view of what the government does. And they don't want kids to be able to, you know, willy-nilly learn something they shouldn't. Maybe when their worldview is more malleable. Anyway.
Senator Blumenthal, that we hope will gain support. And
no, you can't learn about the pro-Palestine, about Palestine as a kid, because then maybe you'll turn out to be anti-Israel if you didn't have a lifetime of, you know, if you haven't consumed a lifetime of pro-Israel propaganda. Maybe you'll be anti-military if you haven't consumed a whole lifetime of pro-American propaganda. You know, that's the kind of thing.
COPPA 2.0. So there's a lot of good things out there, but the point is, it's time to do something, Kristen. Doing nothing to me is feckless, and the next generation is paying the price.
Well, Senator Fetterman, pick up on that point. Do you think you have the votes to get this legislation passed? And how much did your own personal experience with social media apps, what you're referencing, impact your desire to see change in this space?
I'm 56, and when I was a kid, to see really bad or mean things, you had to see that in a bathroom wall. so when
I'm watching an ogre and a Barbie, and evil Barbie, talk about why they're friends.
With social media is the most efficient device ever developed that can deliver it right to your screen. And then there's another one, and then another one, and then if you see one, and then the algorithm will tell you there's 10 more coming, and then if you look at one or two of them, then there's 20 coming in there, and it creates that, and you can quickly get overwhelmed. And that's become like a friend, or at least a companion for your child. And if you had a friend or a companion showing up in your child's life and spending 3 or 4 hours a day with them, you really want to know and understand who that is spending that time with your child. And it needs to be, maybe safer, and just realize what it really is. And I would encourage everybody, put the phone down or spend less time. I'll ask your audience, after you spend an hour.
Put the phone down, as he's been holding his phone in his lap this entire interview.
Or on social media. Raise your hand if you feel better about your life and the world and everything. Anyone?
No hand. Yeah. I don't see
I've never encountered one.
This is like some Jonathan Chait or Haidt. I don't know how you say that guy's name. Like BS, where they just want to, talk around the actual issue here, which is that, young people, uh, which is the economic ills or the economic policy decisions that we've made, which disempower, disenfranchise, and immiserate, poor people more and more, while uplifting an even smaller minority, rich people. And there's really, they just want to, make this the issue rather than the fact that people don't make enough money and aren't earning their fair share or aren't being given their fair share for the work they do. And that there's not really a lot of prospects apart from taking dead-end jobs or meaningless, like, middleman positions for a better future, at least in America.
And that's the point. And it's a choice. Don't forget, it's a choice to do that. And one of the best things I've done is I've completely unplugged by that. I produce my messaging, but I don't sit around and when I've made the mistake to do that after I won my election, that's when things really got bad and the depression set in. And protecting that, we did this together, not just as senators, but also as parents, because we have young children too. And if we want it for us, we probably, it's the appropriate thing for tools for America's parents.
Yeah, and John and I say we don't have to ask people what it's like to raise kids right now with these devices, and we're living it.
And challenges.
Absolutely. And you think about when we want America to lead, and this is one area where we're not. Other countries have stepped up to the plate, and we continue to kind of walk past it, and the time to do something is now.
Well, it's something that we're going to continue to try.
I don't know. Maybe if we had good schools and decent after-school extracurricular programs and all that child care, that everyone would be able to access. Maybe phone addiction problems for kids or them being misguided by con men on the internet would not be such a big problem. If we actually provided these services instead of implementing a censorship and surveillance apparatus. That sounds like a better alternative.
Track really closely because it is so critical, and I think it's one of the biggest issues that parents, that families in general are focused on right now. I do want to turn to another big issue, the war in Iran. Senator Fetterman, you have voted against several Democratic efforts to limit President Trump's war powers in Iran. You've said you don't want to put limits, tie his hands when he's in the middle of waging this conflict. As you both know, a key deadline is coming up. We're bumping up against 60 days, May 1st, since the start of the war. Will you vote to keep U.S. forces engaged in this conflict once it hits that 60-day mark, whereby Congress by law does need to wait?
We won't even vote. We will make no fuss about it and let Donald Trump do whatever he likes, as we have done.
I will vote. I will continue to vote. My vote's not going to change. I know it's perhaps the most toxic thing a Democrat can embrace. I've seen, where's Kornacki? I mean, I polled the numbers on the screen. The AP poll this week said that 4% of Democrats support that. And
I think they are just jealous because they don't know how to use a phone. This guy, at least, I think, you're right about that for John, I think.
is about 3%, so I'm the one, the one that's in the air. And because for me, it's not controversial as a Democrat, every single member of Congress, and when you have someone out here, ask them too, should we allow Iran to acquire a nuclear bomb? Not every single Democrat in Congress says, yes, absolutely not, absolutely not. So here we are. You don't have to agree in every element of epic fury, but if we all agree that we could never allow them to acquire a nuclear bomb, I don't know why we wouldn't want to empower the president to say, no, make sure that Iran can't become a nuclear power, because if they do become a nuclear power, the prices about gas, and the instability and the kinds of attack on Israel can only accelerate because once they become nuclear, Iran effectively becomes untouchable. And here we.
He loves Israel. Iran is going to destroy Israel if they get a nuke. I think he actually believes that shit because he's so dumb, you know? Just a racist, wandering racist, you know, waddling ogre.
We are at the cusp. I wouldn't want to work all this work out in and just back away because politically, yes, entirely, it's absolutely toxic for a Democrat to have that view.
Senator Britt, let me ask you, because I've heard from Democrats and some Republicans, too, who say they want the president to deliver a more fulsome justification of not just the war, but his strategy moving forward. Will you vote to greenlight this war after 60 days?
Yeah, I think what we will see is the administration talk to us about exactly what's going on and what's going to be done. I do. And I also anticipate, look, we've made significant progress. I mean, you've heard that from the president and from the White House. This should have been done 47 years ago.
Also, I mean, President Obama with Libya. I mean, that carried on for a while. And the dynamic and the conversation was much different back then. And I think at the time,
I don't want Iran to have nukes. If Iran had nukes, none of what's been happening for the last 60 days would have been happening. Look at North Korea, for example. Why don't we go liberate North Korea? Why is that not a thing the U.S. is pushing for?
I think that was entirely appropriate. But this is not brand new in the American experience. And a Democratic president done the same thing. And Kamala Harris, when she was running for president as a Democrat, I campaigned for her in late 2024. She said, that's my top danger internationally. We can't ever allow Iran to acquire a nuclear bomb, and I refuse to take the military option off the table. This is not like an extreme view for a Democrat, but it's become an extreme view for Democrats. And
because this is an illegal war, imperialist war of aggression. You know, the negotiation dynamic here is basically the U.S. walking up to Iran with a gun and telling them to fork over the oil. Like, that's what the actual dynamic of the negotiations are. But if Iran had a nuke, the U.S. would actually have to negotiate thank you. With some reason and rationale.
I believe a lot of that's driven by, it happens to be coming by deeply, deeply polarizing and our president for Dems.
And I do, I believe we've got to finish the job. I know people are ready for us to conclude that, and I do believe that the White House is focused on making that happen. But look, this is the largest state sponsor of terrorism across the globe. But we look at what they've done. We look at who they embolden, whether it's Hamas or Hezbollah or the Houthis and beyond. We know that puts our troops at risk. It puts our people at risk and our allies at risk. So I do think we will hear in the next week from the administration.
I mean, I think, you know.
With YouTube Premium, my videos keep playing ad-free even when my screen's locked.
The skies darkened with ash.
But I think Trump is not doing it right because he is just bombing the country and no one profits off of that, really. In the long run, sort of. Yeah. But in the short term, there's a lot of market manipulation and insider trading happening. And oil companies can also use this to use this situation to price gouge, potentially. But it's also chaotic. Only the people really at the top of the top are able to, you know, skim a quick buck off of the market's downturns and upturns so far. You know.
We all remember President Reagan, you know, tear this wall down. And, the world should effectively turn and say, Iran, tear this war down, relinquish your nuclear ambitions and hold, all of us should hold them accountable in the world. And when these countries say, that's not our war, it's like, well, do you consume oil? Yeah, well, then that's making your war, too. If a nation, you consume oil, then it's your war, too. We all have a stake in that.
Very, very quickly, and we're almost out of time, but in typical Meet the Press fashion, I have a million more questions. Okay. But do you think a deal is possible? Do you both think it's possible?
I do. I hope so. I don't think you can trust Iran by any stretch, but I think that we can certainly find a pathway forward, and I hope that they conclude it soon.
Iran just massacred 30,000 of its young people, just killed them. They just are hanging teenagers, literally.
So is it possible to make a deal with them?
Of course you can't. You can't trust them. Absolutely not. That's my point.
Yeah, you can't trust Iran, even though, that 30,000 number is, where's the evidence for that? And, even though the U.S. was the one that bombed Iran during negotiations twice in 1 year. First at that 12-day war last summer. And now, at the end of February in 2026. Fetterman has the confidence of an expert. Not quite.
And now, the way we continue to vote against Epic Fury, Iran understands we just have to last to 60 days, and so that's, if we could just, we could be, you would talk about common ground, it's our military. We have a goal, disagree on parts, but that should be what I think we should all be unified on.
And Kristen, you can't embolden this enemy. And he brings up a great point. I mean, there were people before that were talking about what was actually happening to Iranian citizens, and now those people have gone quiet. I think we have to realize what is happening there in their country and what they're capable of. So I think there can be absolutely no enrichment, zero pathway for that. I mean, we have to be very strong, but I think this administration can and will be. I mean, look, when Donald Trump speaks, people listen because they know he's going to follow through, and I think that's what we'll see on
that. When Donald Trump speaks, people listen. That's why that's why there's a Taco Trump meme on Wall Street, because people know he follows through and chickens out. Ugh. God, I'm glad this isn't true about Trump, because if this was actually true, Iran would have been nuked, right? You know?
All right, a little bit of a rapid fire round, if we can. I want to talk about both of your political futures. Senator Fetterman, as you know, there's a lot of speculation.
I have a future.
Yes. Does that mean you're definitely running for office again? Because you haven't said.
Yeah, I have a future.
Okay, well.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. I have a future.
I got this.
I like how everyone laughed at him, knowing that he's going to lose whatever Democratic primary challenger he goes up against, lose to whatever Democrat. Unless the left flank really just shucks it up, shucks up the primary challenge and splits the vote or something, like, he's done.
I want to ask you, because
America needs him. I mean, you think about like his willingness to speak truth in every single situation. Look, he votes with Democrats 90-something% of the time, but I appreciate his willingness to call balls and strikes.
Oh yeah, last night we were till at 4 a.m.
Yes.
How many votes was that?
Too many. I mean,
35 votes.
We kept
and I voted every single Democrat vote last night.
Did.
You know,
there was a vote-a-rama, for those of you who don't know. So they were up all night and still made it here. So kudos to both of you.
And I also think.
Wow. It was so hard to be on the Senate floor surrounded by my staff my staff of servants to fetch me food and water and whatever else I need. To vote for whatever my lobbyist donors tell me to. That was so tough.
You think about this, all-nighters, like if you pulled one of those, it was likely like to study for a test in college or maybe doing something you don't want to talk about. But when we are doing that, I often think like, I mean, it's hard all night. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I think we have colleagues that have more life experience than us. And I wonder how in the world they make it through, but they do. They push through.
Well,
God. Our fucking American representatives are so unserious. I hate it so much.
we appreciate you guys pushing through to be here.
Imagine having to work for one of these people. They're just yapping about how we're brave soldiers for voting on the on the Senate floor up until 4 a.m. or whatever. Like, yeah, y'all, they only get to vacation for half the year. You know, it's so hard being a senator. You're only one of the most powerful people in the country.
After an all-nighter. As you know, Senator Fetterman, the Pennsylvania Republican Party chairman, actually said last week he'd consider supporting your re-election in 2028 if you became a Republican, if you switched parties. You haven't said definitively that you're running for re-election unless you'd like to announce it here. But would you ever consider running for office as a Republican senator?
As much as I'm friends with a lot of Republicans, including my parents, I'm not a Republican, and so like that's what it's really was. That's the truth. You know, people always say, you know, we have to be a big tent party. So it's really strange. I'm mystified by it. If I'm more popular, I've had Republican friends in my state say, you're actually more popular than I am, you know, with our people. And you know, how a guy that votes a 93 second percent Dem line has that happen. I'm mystified by it. I can't explain it, but I think that demonstrates. I don't know, but that's here we are. But I absolutely do know as a Democrat how to pay the bills, and you can win. And actually, people have won elections by having campaigns saying "F Trump" repeatedly, again and again and again and again. You know, and that's become commonplace. So you know. I know that, but that means that I refuse to engage in that because I think it's more important to engage everybody and things we can agree, things that we can disagree on, but we'll do it in a respectful way. And we've all forgot that we're all Americans.
And are you?
Oh, okay. We've all forgot that we're all nice word salad, man. I mean, he was right about Democrats running on just F Trump, but, you know, he's just running on I love Israel and I am a blue Republican spoiler candidate now. I am the new Joe Manchin, but dumber and uglier.
Running for re-election, Senator? Are you running for re-election?
You before backstate, it's going to be really easy and.
That's easy.
I don't trust the media, right?
That's easy. That's
so,
easy.
yes.
Let me ask you this.
That's
you
good.
never talked about running for president, but would you support Senator Fetterman if he were to say, I'm going to run for president?
Look,
I'll vote for whatever she does next, although I'm not in Alabama or whatever. But
there you go.
I'll vote for whatever she does.
The honor of serving the people of the great state of Alabama in the United States Senate. However, that's not the job that matters most. I am a proud wife and mom of 2 school-aged kids. My daughter Bennett and my son Ridgway are why I ran for the Senate. I'm worried about their future and the future of children in every corner of our nation. And that's why I invited you into our home tonight. Like so many families across America, my husband Wesley and I just watched President Biden's State of the Union address from our living room. And what we saw was the performance of a permanent politician who has actually been in office for longer than I've been alive. One thing was quite clear, though. President Biden just
she ain't right.
Look, I just said it. I mean, he's a breath of fresh air for everybody, and I hope that people take a step back. You said you vote with Democrats 93.
No, he's the opposite of that. He's the stinkiest fart that Democrats have ever elected to office, probably.
3% of the time, but yet the few things where he is voting with Republicans are things like Israel and that used to be mainstream, in the Democratic Party, or even like keeping the government open. Thank you for continuing to vote to keep the government open.
Yeah, well, I mean, if anyone here there's married, and we are, if you agree with your partner 93% of the time,
that's a home run.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
That's a home run.
I'm not getting anything close to that in mind.
That's right. That's right.
So,
Senator Fetterman, would you support Senator Britt if she were to announce she's running for president one day?
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, I've described this in interviews that they're America's family.
We're gonna
the big unit. That's the big unit.
So he calls my husband the big unit. So you know how large John is. I mean, John takes up a door frame, right?
Yeah, he is.
And Wesley is a large man too. And so they. Center in Huntsville, Alabama. And so as we were cheering them on, we were also cheering on the men and women that made that possible, knowing how they worked countless. And, many people, I appreciate Administrator Isaacman for rolling in the time and saying, no, we're going to do this now and we're going to do it more often because there's a lot of work to be done. And we're going to continue to lead when it comes to space. And Alabama's proud to be a part of it. So, yeah, we should go together. What do you think?
You guys should go together. Senator Fetterman, would you be on board?
Looks like John is really good friends with the Republican here. I wonder why.
Yeah, they said the size of that thing, John, was like the size of a minivan.
Yeah,
so that may be a little cramped.
All right, guys.
No, I don't think I have to worry about it, honestly. Yeah.
Well, this was an extraordinary conversation. We can't thank you enough. It's so important to hear.
No, it was terrible. It wasn't even good content. Ugh. But YouTubers, if you enjoyed that analysis, like and subscribe.